Welcome everyone. I'm going to be taking you through a project I did to build a book nook, an Indiana Jones inspired book nook. As you'll see here in the first part of the video and well throughout the whole thing, I don't really have a lot of fancy tools. I don't have a fancy workshop. You'll probably recognize that I'm working on the dinner table. Yeah, but that's fine. You know, this is stuff that I can do, anybody can do, and it's really fun just to be inspired by some of the videos I've seen on YouTube and different things that people are making out there, and decided I wanted to try to make something for myself. And of course, someone might ask Indiana Jones, why would he do something like this? And like he would say, fortune and glory, kid, fortune and glory. So here you'll see I'm making a book nook inspired from the opening scene in Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark, where they go into the temple and find the golden idol. And specifically, this will be the scene where Indy is in front of the golden idol and just about ready to grab it before the whole thing falls down around him. Alright, so I'm just stacking foam at this point, cutting things, making sure they fit, and not going to have any surprises. Here's a fun little technique I learned. When watching some of the other videos, I learned that you can use a mechanical pencil to get some details into the foam, and it really does work quite well. It is kind of tough to see at this point because everything is white, but you know, once you start putting some paint on it and pulling everything together, all those details really pop. It makes it look really good. You can actually see what it is it's supposed to be. So I guess that's a positive, a good little a good little trick that I learned. And I did learn a lot of things on this build. A lot of things I never thought I would learn, never thought I would need. Not sure I'll ever need it again, but it was good to learn a lot of things. Like this, here's another one, the rolling up the aluminum foil and rolling it back and forth on the foam there. You really get the texture, that stone texture that you'd be looking for in a temple. It was kind of tough getting it on each individual stair. I had to kind of roll it a little bit more and really get it in there and get a little tight squeeze, but we were able to get it. I'm just adding in a lot more of the details. Well, this is only one part of the build where I did use this technique. There's going to be more we'll see a little bit later on. Here's a little fancy tool I did buy, this little hot wire cutter. Look how well it just cuts everything. It so easily cuts into the foam. But of course, nothing surprises me. I'm a scientist. Much simpler technique, cutting the toothpicks down and shoving that into the foam just to help give some support there and to the entire structure, so it all just doesn't fall over when I start to put it together. You know, there's a lot of hot glue as well that's going to hold everything together, but I guess every little bit helps, even if ultimately it may not have been necessary. At least I got it on there. And speaking of hot glue, there it comes. It might have still been that first long tube of hot glue. I'm not sure how many I went through, at least 3 tubes there, and then you can see it's the long version as well. And there's probably twice as much. So here, this is going to help support in the back. And also when building a book nook, you don't want things to be crooked. So here I'm just using using a square to make sure it's all lined up, because you know what a cautious fellow I am. And some of our first glamour shots as well. Just putting the little miniature I found. You might have recognized he's holding a machete and a gun, and he's got something strapped on his back, and I don't need all that. So we'll have a solution later on. How do we get rid of the unnecessary elements that came with the little miniature figure that I bought. Test fitting and cutting out where the stairs would be. Oh, here I'm doing more of the detail work. Like I say, all the detail work, all in all, probably took me a couple of hours to get all of the detail work. Like here in the hallway, it's only a partial hallway, thank goodness. The one where the darts flew out and you've got the faces on the wall, those carvings. And of course I carved it all as well. Whoop, there went a cat, if you noticed, in the lower left-hand corner. And so here using the aluminum foil technique again, or aluminium for my friends over in the UK. Probably should mention, if you see the newspaper, it is written in French. Initially I thought I'd be here for 1 or 2 years, fun experience in Europe, and well, I'm still here today. It's been a few years now. Alright, so the paint that I've put on, you can really see it nice and shiny and sticky in there. It's not just paint, there's also a lot of glue, just to help give some support to the foam and the overall structure. Alright, well, there's that cat again. Her name is Plume, which is French for feather. Here using a Dremel, not cutting myself, but getting rid of the parts to this minifigure that I don't need. Like I say, I don't want a machete in his hand. I don't want a gun, holding a gun. It's just not in the scene, so I don't want to add different things on there. And this was fun. A lot of it I had to figure out on the fly and just, figure out how to make different things. And for this part, I wanted to make the golden idol. I decided to use hot glue to make the golden idol. And a fun little happy accident, I was able to make the little bag that held the sand that Indiana had. So that was a happy little accident. And I also managed to get a golden idol out of it too. Took a few tries and putting some primer, just black paint on there. He chose poorly. If you're gonna put spray paint on anything, make sure it's fastened somehow to a support. Painting miniatures. These things are tiny as well. You can see there, and also it was a nighttime, so I didn't really see everything too well. Eyes do that over time, but it's not the years, honey. It's the mileage. Fortunately, everything is a nice brown color with Indiana Jones as well. And see here, putting it back together, things are starting to come together. I'm being sloppy with this paint. It's only because it's the first layer after that paint and glue mixture. So I know there's going to be a lot more to come. So this is really just to make some of those highlights pop at this point. Nothing more. Just getting a bunch of paint on that's going to be hidden by more layers. And of course the same paint into the idol room also. And the stairs and the entrance and the back walls, which fortunately didn't fall over. They're still standing. There's a lot of paint on this project. Down at the dollar store, the acrylic paints aren't expensive. Now these are the pressure plates. Remember the ones that would set off the darts in the movie? I'm painting these. I'm just putting a red highlight on there. Of course, it's not going to be this bright at the end when there's a lot more paint covering things up. But at this point, I did want to get some paint down just so they would stand out in the final product. And so you can already start to tell in that quick pick that went by, you can start to see what it looks like. Alright, getting a little bit of color in there. We are in Central America. And also some twine, so this is fun. I had to figure out how to make the vines. And the best way I found was to mix glue, paint, might be a little bit of water as well, but boy, it was fun and it was nasty. Felt like I was a young kid again, just having fun in the mud. Now you're getting nasty. But putting the vines on there was actually a really fun step, but it was actually necessary. Because before it just felt so square, flat, two-dimensional. But once I started building onto the walls with the vines here, it really made it feel more real, made it stand out more. Just a little bit of paint to tidy things up, make them stand out well. Before we move on, here in a few seconds we'll move on to some flocking. So there I just, well, there you can see a pick how it just stands out more. So the flocking here with the glue, just put down some glue and then take some of the grass that they sell for the model railroads, and just taking a few different colors of that grass and sprinkling it on. It really gives the feel of some vegetation growing on the different walls. That's why they call it the jungle, sweetheart. And of course that glue is going to dry clear, and all that different grass is going to stick to it, and you can start to see what it's going to look like and how things are feeling more three-dimensional. Here I'm just trying to make things fit. I don't know, I'm making this up as I go. So here I'm moving things around, trying to make things fit, and this is going to be the front, which is going to just cover up, and it will just help cover up everything. And I decided to go for the same feel with the stonework and and what you would see in the temple there, which would be the front of the book nook. Here, taking that hot wire cutter, there's just put a hole through. I've got just the cheapest pixie lights I could find. You can get them for like $1. It's just got a little battery pack. Inside there's going to be a roof section, and what I'll do, I'll just hot glue the lights in there so that when you turn it on, it's going to shine light onto the scene with the idol and Indiana Jones. So see, they're just sticking into the roof there. Even a couple on each side, just to help add some more depth and dimension. And speaking of the sides, an idea came to me as I was putting it together. What is it that I wanted to build onto the sides? And I thought at the end scene, where they have the warehouse with all the crates, why not have the book nook inside a crate? So I had to figure out how to do that. Of course, the front is going to be the entrance to the temple, but everything else is going to be the crate there. Which again comes back to why it's so important to level everything up. Everything needs to be level. As you'll see here, I try to do that the whole way. Trust me. I managed not to burn myself and not to cut through any wires, and managed to get the top level as well. Because if all the sides are level, the bottom's level, we also want the top to be level. That way it'll also fit nicely onto the bookcase. More hot glue. I told you there's a lot of hot glue holding this up. And of course I measured everything twice, or in my case 3 or 4 times, just to make sure everything is lined up. Measure before I did any cutting, and put on all that hot glue, and that way when you put it together, everything fits in nice and snug and perfect, and there's none of that extra or worse, not enough. Because not enough, you got to find another solution to cover it up, and if there's extra, you got to find a way to cut it when everything's already in place and being held with that hot glue, and not the easiest. It's easier to cut on that little mat. Now, putting on the top, I also wanted to add in a section for the battery pack, so you can turn this thing on or off or change the batteries. So I decided just to put a hinge on there with a little handle. And this plaster of Paris and some paint, just to really tidy it up and hide some of the foam that was visible when you opened up the top space. Alright, and here I am working on making it look like a crate. Why did I just not go for a simple box and save myself a lot of time and effort? Great question, but, well, yeah, I did it. And of course, as we laid down this veneer, and of course, just the cheapest veneer I could find. I found this one on Amazon. Wasn't expensive. Cut really easy. I tried with that box cutter, but I wound up using a pair of scissors, which was much easier, and looks just like the crate. So Just like in the movie, put the crate in the warehouse. You know, we have top men working on it right now. Who? Top men. I'm doing a stenciling job that you can't see, thanks to my placement of my camera. But it's just to get as much of the wording on the side that I could. Of course, the real text used in the movie is much larger. But here we're getting to the end. Some of those glamour shots, so I'll just be quiet now. Thank you for watching all the way to the end here, and just enjoy the end shots. Thanks.